So this is my applied research methods assignment presentation investigating the effects of sports drinks and performance athletes. So what are the three main approaches to research? Firstly, we've got qualitative research, using words, opinions, interviews, etc. to collect data on a topic. Quantitative research, using numerical and factual data to collect research on a topic. Mixed methods research, which combines both quantitative and qualitative to collect research on a topic. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of qualitative research? So we've got an advantage of qualitative research would be that it provides rich, detailed insights. Qualitative research allows researchers to understand athletes' motivations, feelings and experiences. For example, interviewing elite swimmers to explore psychological impacts prior to competition. Another advantage would be flexibility and then adaptability. Qualitative research allows methods to be adjusted as new themes arise. For example, observing a training session and adjusting questions based on how players respond to coaches' feedback. A disadvantage would be that it's subjective, opinion-based responses are open to interpretation and potential researcher bias. Another disadvantage was that it's time-consuming. Collecting interview transcripts, analysing them for common themes, and writing interview questions takes time. So the same for quantitative research. So an advantage is that it's objective and measurable. Quantitative research data is numerical, reducing bias by the researcher, you can't change it. Measuring VO2 max improvements after an 8-week training program would be an example of this. Another advantage, ease of replication, so standardized tests allow for consistent results in repeated testing. An example, completing a 1 rep max test before pre-workout and after pre-workout consumption. A disadvantage, lack of context or explanation. Quantitative research shows what happens but not necessarily why. Another disadvantage, it requires specialist equipment. Accurate testing may require specialist equipment that requires a technician to operate, making general testing harder to complete. So some advantages and disadvantages of mixed methods research. So an advantage, it combines the strengths of quantitative and qualitative. Mixed methods provides a more in-depth understanding from multiple perspectives. For example, measuring training load quantitatively while simultaneously interviewing athletes on their perceived fatigue. Another advantage would be that it helps to explain findings. So qualitative data can give reasoning behind quantitative findings. For example, if GPS data shows reduced running speed late in the game, interviews can determine the reasoning behind this. Another disadvantage is that it requires expertise in different methods. Researchers need to understand how to conduct statistics and qualitative analysis. So the research problem at hand is what effects do sports drinks have on endurance athlete performance? The research method I have used is mixed methods, incorporating both quantitative and qualitative data collection. The qualitative data was collected via a survey and some short interviews that will be discussed later, and quantitative data used in this assignment was also collected by myself on a subject in the form of 3 5-kilometre runs. So the quantitative data collection. Using the exercise tracking app Strava and a Fitbit watch, I had a subject run 3 5-kilometre runs on different days. 1 5k was a control run, used as a baseline to compare further research from. Strictly water was allowed as hydration during this. The second 5k was investigating the sports drink on performance during the run, whether there is improvement or not from the baseline, using the drink Lucozade, due to ease of access in most UK stores. The third 5k was investigating the sports drink's effect on fatigue post-exercise. So the qualitative data collection, so after each run I interviewed the subject on how they felt about the performance, their perceived effects of fatigue, their opinion on whether the sports drink helped or not. These interviews will give an indicator whether the sports drink is a placebo effect or has a real impact on performance. By comparing the numeric data of each 5K to the answers given in these interviews, it can be determined the true effect of sports drinks on exercise. So, analysing the quantitative data, this first screenshot is taken from the app after the control 5K. This data is going to be used as a baseline to compare the effects of a sports drink on performance. As seen, subject completed a 5K run with an average pace of 6 minutes 17 seconds per kilometre and a total time of 31 minutes 26 seconds. So quantitative and some more quantitative analysis. So the next photo is taken from after the second 5K where the subject consumed a sports drink during exercise. This data shows that the sports drink has a positive effect on endurance performance. As seen, the subject completed a 5K run with an average pace of 5 minutes and 8 seconds per kilometre and a total time of 25 minutes 41 seconds, meaning they improved from the control run. Some more qualitative analysis. So this recording is taken from an interview conducted after the last 5K, where the subject consumed a sports drink after exercise. So this audio shows sports drinks influencing fatigue and recovery positively, whilst also having a great effect on performance during exercise.
How did you feel after the first run?
Fatigued.
How did you feel after the second run?
A little bit less fatigued, but still pretty fatigued.
And the third one?
Probably the best out of the three. I felt more comfortable doing it.
So some further qualitative data. So this data is taken from a survey collected on perceived effects of sports drinks on performance. So the question was, what do you use sports drinks for? As we can see, if we cut out the less useful data, we can see that primary use of sports drinks is hydration. The second most popular use is because of their taste. This could show that many athletes don't actually care about the effects on performance, but rather use it as a taste and enjoyable sugary content. The third most popular use was their performance. Contrast to the second most popular use, some athletes do believe sports drinks help their performance. This shows that they prefer sports drinks that give them a greater performance boost over their taste. So research skills that we use. So one research skill was data collection. This skill was used to ensure that the data was accurate and valid by properly calibrating the GPS and timer. Another skill was research design. So proper research design ensures valid data collection, for example, measuring the distance correctly to ensure accurate data collection. And a third skill was data interpretation and analysis. So reading and comparing data and using it to make conclusions of the research problem. So some similarities and differences between the methods. So quantitative data collection samples a group of participants, as testing an entire population is generally impossible. However, it's more fact-based and statistical, leaving less room for bias or interpretation. Qualitative follows ethical guidelines on systematic data collection research design, however opinion-based and often open-ended, leading to interpretation and potential bias. So mixed methods also uses elements of both quantitative and qualitative, however it's not strictly statistical or opinion-based, but can give the why to the how. So as explained in the previous slides, quantitative research gives fact-based, stiff statistical data that is hard to sway to favour a given outcome, essentially the how. Qualitative research gives opinion-based, the more in-depth, detailed data that can easily be tailored to suit a researcher's bias, or otherwise the why. Mixed methods research combines both methods to give a deep understanding while simultaneously having a factual foundation for the more open-ended data given by interviews and surveys. So for my research, I decided to use mixed methods as it allowed me to research two things in one. I used quantitative data collection through having a subject complete 3 timed runs of a set distance and isolating an independent variable that I could control and change. I used qualitative data collection through surveying a sample of 45 athletes of wide backgrounds and sports. I then sat down to interview my subjects on their perceived effects of the sports drink and their fatigue levels. All of this allowed me to answer my research problem: what effects do sports drinks have on endurance athletes? The answer was, sports drinks have a positive effect on endurance athletes' performance during exercise and can aid in recovery and levels of fatigue post-exercise. Sports drinks contain minerals, simple carbohydrates and electrolytes that replenish energy levels quickly after exercise and can give an energy boost during exercise. However, they should be taken in moderation, as overconsumption can lead to heightened risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, tooth decay and liver damage. This is due to the high sugar content and caffeine, which in high quantities are just harmful to humans. Some supporting case studies. So one case study that used mixed methods research is Smith, L.J. Carter, M.R. and Phillips. A mixed methods examination of burnout, academic pressure and training load among collegiate athletes. This was published in their Journal of Sports Psychology and Performance on page 215 to 230. This was an investigation into the causes of burnout within collegiate athletes. The research showed that athletes with higher training loads had significantly higher burnout scores than those with lighter loads. The mixed methods used showed that the burnout was caused not only by training load alone, but by psychological pressures where athletes are encouraged to push through the pain. A second supporting case study was Rodriguez, Thompson and Ahmed. In 2019, they evaluated athlete-centered coaching in youth football, a mixed methods analysis of performance and motivation. This was published in their International Journal of Coaching Science, page 89 to 104. This was an investigation into the effects of different coaching styles in youth football. The research showed that teams trained under the athlete-centered style made improvements in decision-making and game involvement. The mixed methods showed that player motivation levels were higher under the athlete-centered style than that of the traditional coaching style. Players reported feeling more trusted by their coaches and more comfortable taking risks. Observations confirmed this by revealing a positive learning environment within the athlete-centered style, and that performance gains were linked to better communication, autonomy and team culture.